Hi, and welcome to Gay Out the City. I'm your host, Prince Electro Diamond, and today I am here with OnlyFans content creator, burlesque entertainer, male stripper, Damien Lenore, who is currently at the Moon in Miami on Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday, and will be at Mango's Key West on March 18th. How you doing today, sexy?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Lenore.
Oh, it's Lenore? Shit.
Right, yeah.
Fuck.
Good morning.
Morning. So, where are you originally from? Because I know you're in, like, you perform in, like, the Miami area now. Where are you originally from?
I am originally from New Jersey.
Work. So, what was it like growing up as a kid in New Jersey?
I mean, I lived in a really quiet, like super suburban town. So, I mean, it was cute. I mean, the weather sucks in New Jersey a lot of the year. It's really pretty in the spring and the fall. Um, but yeah, it was super easy place to grow up, honestly. Not a lot happening.
Yeah.
Once you get older and you're like a teenager or like in your early 20s, it's like, oh, what do I do? There's really nothing to do here. But
Yeah. So, what was it like for you when you came out?
um so how that happened, I was a senior. Well, let's go back. I was a junior first when I had a girlfriend at the time for like 2 years in high school. And she was always like, I think you like guys. And I mean, I knew I liked guys, but I wasn't ready to say I liked guys yet.
Yeah.
And eventually she would keep insisting on it and stuff like that. And I was like, all right, well, I do like guys, but I also like girls. So maybe we can explore that. And she was actually really cool about that and kind of like let me sort of do my thing. And when we would sort of do our thing together with like her and guys and stuff like that. And by senior year, she was like, yeah, you definitely don't like girls. I know you don't like girls. Because it was like, I wouldn't want to do stuff with her. And it wasn't because I didn't like her, because she's like, I mean, she's one of my best friends to this day. And I've like really loved her as a person. But it's, I like guys. So,
Yeah.
she really helps me actually feel comfortable enough to come out. So by like mid senior year, I was like 16 or 17. I came out and I was like, oh my God, I don't know. All my friends are gonna like not talk to me anymore. Like the typical kind of stuff. Like, this is not gonna be easy. And luckily for me, and I know this isn't the case for a lot of people, it really was super easy. I didn't lose any friends. I think everybody kind of like knew already, because
Right.
in theater, I was like super artsy. I was always into, I don't like movies, like, and TV that was like really gay shit and stuff like that. So I don't think people were like as shocked as I thought they were going to be.
Yeah.
People clock us like way before we clock ourselves, kind of, like we think we're doing a good job at like pretending we're someone we're not, in any case involving anything. Like if we're faking anything, people know. So it was cool. It was just like I built this whole experience up in my head that it was going to be like some awful thing, and it really wasn't.
Well, I mean, I totally get that. When, like, I finally did. So, I came out as bi at first, and then, like, at some point, my sister just told me, she's like, you're fucking gay, just admit it. And it's like, and she's like, I knew. I'm thinking you couldn't have given me a fucking hint, bitch. Like, but I will say that's very sort of nice way to come out. I did not have that experience.
Oh no.
So basically, well, it wasn't my family. It was okay. So as I said, I came out as bi originally, and I was coming out. I was raised Catholic. Like, I told a youth minister and I was talking to him about theatrical performance ideas that I have, and one of them like involved a knife, and I had like practiced with it, and basically he left the room. He came back, he's like, I'm giving you one of two options. Either you're coming with me or I'm calling the cops. And at the time, I mean, I was 18, but I was like somewhat a sheltered 18. So, like, I didn't know. So I'm like, well, I don't want the cops to call. So I went with him, got a psych eval. I passed it. He kind of, in some ways, like lied to like get me locked up. And I was locked in a mental institution for 64 hours.
Oh, I'm so sorry. That's terrible.
It was at that point, like, that was what I call the like start of my turn out of religion. I kind of started doing more research into like what the Catholic Church was about, and people around me didn't like that.
I'm sure.
Yeah, so at some point there was like, I think it was, I was in the church like 2 more years, and then like by the time I turned 20, I'm like, these people are just like talking against me. I'm not going to church anymore. Like, that's it. And eventually I just became like an atheist, an agnostic atheist. So I'm like, y'all, what you think is insane. So I'm gonna stay over here with logic.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when did you first start painting?
Painting. You know, I talk a lot of shit about college. However, I did learn some techniques because I thought like my thing was always when I was younger, I like even when I was little, I had really, really, really bad ADD. So
Right.
my parents would give me either like a thing of clay or like a sketchbook or something like that to bring to school in like grade school. So it was always drawing, sculpting, like doing shit like that so I wouldn't be like bouncing off the walls in class, even though like I still would, but it was
Yeah.
better for me to have something to do. So, all through when I was young into high school and everything like that, I drew and I like sculpted and did all that kind of stuff. But for some reason, like I kind of didn't get the hang of painting, even though I really wanted to. And of course, my parents like really, really pushed me to go to art school. And I had this professor in art school who taught me a couple of techniques that sort of just like completely changed it.
Right.
And I started really liking painting more when I was like 22, right after I dropped out the second time. I was like, all right, well, I have these techniques and now I can paint. And with those techniques, I was actually good at it. And then I liked it better. Because
Yeah.
I think
I mean,
very
look,
much.
I don't fault anybody from dropping out of college. I did myself. Like, because I was just, as I've said before, especially on here, like, I was in the wrong major. Like, knowing what I know now, I went to school for music business, which just wasn't something I should have done. I would have gone for broadcast journalism, so like I could get better at doing this. But yeah, so I basically dropped out. I got a degree in audio engineering through like a technical school. Turned out I didn't like audio engineering. I like producing music, but I don't like having to sit there and like do the like technical aspect of it.
Hmm.
So basically I'm doing what most college dropouts do, which is like floating from job to job, hoping that this eventually works so that I don't have to work for anybody anymore.
Yeah,
Anyway.
it's kind of like we're asked at a very young age to make like big major decisions about what we want to do with the rest of our life. And it's like, okay, what I really liked to do 20 years ago
Yeah,
isn't going to be what I really like to do now, you know? And just because you're good at something doesn't mean you're going to want to do it as a career. You know, like I
exactly.
hate, hate to paint as my career. I would hate it. It would like suck all the joy right out of it. And during quarantine, when the strip club was closed, because I was still stripping like full time when quarantine started, and
Right.
the club closed, and they were nice enough to like once or twice a month have these car washes. You know, you can imagine what that was like. But other than that, I had no income, and stripping obviously is a cash only off the books business. So
Exactly.
getting um, unemployment. And my dumb ass had not filed my taxes in a minute. I have now. So if the IRS is listening, I'm up to date. But I couldn't get the stimulus checks either. So I was like, what the fuck am I going to do? And I'm like, well, I am stuck inside. I might as well take this time to paint. And I've like painted portraits for people like for commission and stuff like that. And that's kind of how I made some money during quarantine. But
That that's awesome.
it was like cool, but
Yeah.
at the same time, the fantasy of like painting whatever I want and being able to like sell it and this and that and the other thing, that's not the truth for everybody. It was very much like, okay, this person wants a portrait. I have to paint this person. This
Right.
isn't, you know, it's, and you're working from photographs because it's quarantine. You know, you're not going to meet up with people. So you have to kind of like, okay, what photographs do you have? You have to take whatever photo. It's not always a great quality. You have to try and take like a very small photograph, blow it up onto a big canvas. It was like equal parts like creative and technical. And
Yeah.
I anything technical because I'm it's like I'm a brat. I like want to do what I want to do, especially when it comes to like being creative. So it was sort of
Exactly.
a double-edged sword, but it definitely came in handy, but I wouldn't want to do it full time, you
Yeah.
know.
I mean, I especially love like talking to people about what they did during quarantine because I was working one of the jobs where I didn't get to quarantine. I had to keep going to work. I was working at a senior living home, so like I never stopped working. I got like when I caught COVID, I was supposed to have 7 days. After 5, they're like, "You're coming back at the end of this week. We don't care what your doctor's note says. You're coming back at the end of this week. We need you."
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, that's wild. That's wild. Yeah, those were very strange times, and there were a lot of people who had to work straight through it, even if they didn't want to. So I'm sorry that that happened. That
yeah. I mean, what I did like started transitioning like from being home and then like kind of I would say like towards the end of 2021 after all this is when I started this podcast because as I was telling you before we started going live, it's like I wanted to tell my story. I wanted a weekly thing that I could do myself and I can't get gigs, so like I might as well just like stay home and talk behind a microphone. And I said stuff that like some people would say, "Don't say that, you're gonna regret it." Sorry. I feel like you should be honest when you're doing a podcast, and if you're holding things back, people will know.
did you regret anything?
No, I haven't regretted anything I said. Speaking of my sister, as I said, especially when I started like interviewing people, if she ever sees like the first 2 to 3 interviews I started doing with people, I would honestly get like a message from her because I did not make her look good at all. But as I said, I said my truth. So like, fuck it, I
Listen,
don't care.
just being honest. I'm just being honest.
Yeah, it's like it's honestly happened. You said it. She said something at one point to me, just like doing drag was just a way for me to get attention, and it's like, well, if you didn't want me to say that in public, you shouldn't have said it to me. Like,
Exactly.
yeah. So when did you first become part of nightlife in Wilton Manor in Miami?
So very shortly after I moved down here, actually, it was like kind of the first thing I did. Um, so I came down here like 5 years ago from New Jersey through Las Vegas for treatment for alcoholism and addiction. And I was
Yeah,
in Vegas for 3 months in rehab. And then through some drama back in New Jersey with, it's a long story, but I wound up, instead of
yeah,
going to New Jersey, I stayed, I came down here to continue treatment for another month in Fort Lauderdale. I was like, all right, well, what am I going to do? I definitely did not want to go back to doing hair, which is what I was doing in New Jersey, because I hated it.
yeah,
And I definitely didn't want to do retail, and I definitely didn't want to be a server. And I'm like, I'm not the world's best dancer, but I do stay in the gym. I could easily be a stripper, and it would be fun and something different and whatever, which I mean, may not, I would not suggest that to anybody that's first coming out of treatment to
yeah.
immediately start working at a strip club. I was fine. I'll be clean for 5 years in October, so it was fine for me. It wasn't triggering or anything like that, but I was just like, this is going to be a fun and easy job where I don't have to wake up early. It's completely different than anything I've done, and I'll still make money, and it's exercise. So I
Yeah.
was like, all right, work. This is like, and it would be a great way to meet people down here, which
Right.
worked out for me. So since then, I worked in that strip club, the first one I worked at, took a little break, did some other bullshit jobs that I said I wasn't going to do, hair,
Yeah.
serving, and then went, not that those jobs are bullshit, but they don't work for me. I am just not the person to work on a like schedule with people telling me what to do. It just like don't work. Um,
Right.
so then I went back to stripping, and I was like, I liked it. I was good at it. Made a lot of connections, and I worked in 1, 2, 3 strip clubs down here, and that's kind of like how nightlife. I started meeting people who were involved in nightlife. I met my drag mom, who got me involved in performing. In addition to, I was working at the strip club and then performing, and then eventually, after a while, I stopped working at the club and started doing what I do now. And that's just,
Word.
it was like one thing led to the next, led to the next, led to the next.
So okay, I will say this because you brought this up. So you being in like a strip club working, did you ever like get close to falling off the wagon, or were you able to like navigate it and like able to stay away from alcohol?
So I never got close to falling off because working in these strip clubs, like, no shade to these nice people, but you see the absolute messiest of messy situations. And it was very much like living in Scared Straight, but like the don't relapse version,
Yeah.
Seeing people vomit while they were on stage, vomit off the stage. like literally vomit into their mask when we had to wear masks. I've seen people G out. I've seen people get taken out, like Baker acted out of the strip club. And it's like all of this insane behavior was directly a result of people's use. And it's like when I was using before I got clean, I was that person that I was never one to vomit, which I don't actually think is a good thing because sometimes that just helps you kind of like sober up. But I could like drink my face off and just black out and be an absolute like Courtney Love hot mess and wake up in the fucking emergency room hooked up to IVs, like not knowing how I got there. That was like how I used. And seeing these people go through these things on a regular basis kind of reminds it's like a constant reminder when I see the messy people out and stuff like that. I'm like, thank God I do not have to be this person anymore, because it was not a good look on me. And it reminds me like the second I fall off, I lose everything that I've worked really hard for. So it wasn't triggering, but I was never one to really like go out and socially like drink and use, you know. I was very much like a secret, like I'm in my house like drinking and doing cocaine, or like I'm like on the sneak about it. I was never like one to be at parties and stuff. So I don't know if it's maybe a mix of those two things. Like I was never one to really socialize and also look at these people socializing and totally messing up their lives. So a combo. But yeah, never really, didn't trigger me then. It doesn't trigger me now. But that being said, I wouldn't suggest for like everybody just coming out of rehab to like immediately start in the strip club. Because just because it worked for me, it probably won't work for most people.
No. And like you saying that, like obviously I don't have a problem. Like I've had like in terms of performing, like I'm someone, especially as I was telling you, like living so far away and like having to travel back and forth, knowing that like you have to get in the car and drive home like an hour at some point, you tend not to like drink a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So like there was like one bad night that I had, and it wasn't necessarily like me doing stuff. It was like I was performing and people were just like giving me drinks.
Yeah.
And that was a night that I will say, like, thank goodness I didn't get a DUI that night. I was able to get like saved, but I almost did. And like that kind of taught me like, okay, I can't do this anymore. Like, so in terms of like performing since then I don't think I've had any drinks at all when I performed. I just don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not a huge like alcohol drinker to begin with. Like I'm someone who like does maybe like if I have a drink, I'll be like one or two, and like that's all I need. And I think especially like singing live, like drinking a ton of alcohol before you have to sing isn't necessarily like good for your voice. Like,
yeah, I'm sure.
So when did you first start? Well, okay, I'll take off that part. When did you first start burlesque dancing?
So I think the first show I was in was a little over 2 years ago. My drag mom put together a male burlesque show at one of the nights she hosts in Wilton Manors. And she was actually one of the first people I met when I came down here from New Jersey. I met her while I was working in the strip club. And I had expressed an interest in burlesque to her. And she had mentioned to me like, oh, I always wanted to have a male review. Flash forward about a year, and she put this male review together, and she asked me to be in it. And yeah, it was that first time, and then it turned into like a monthly thing. So that's kind of that's where I started. It was at the pub in Wilton Manors.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, do you like the fact that burlesque dancing allows you to explore your more feminine side? Because I know, at least from what I know of burlesque, it's a little bit more like feminine than like traditional male stripping.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be for everybody,
Yeah.
but my particular brand often is, and I love that. Absolutely love that. Because it kind of like it lets you to explore different sides of yourself and play with different aspects of your personality, masculine, feminine, in between. And it's fun because you're really like celebrating different parts of yourself and inviting an audience to celebrate those parts of yourself, and in turn like themselves like with you together, you know.
Right.
It's cool.
I will say, as someone who like, I get that, like, I will say drag does that for me. It's like I've sung like in and out of drag. I like singing in drag a lot more because like I get more into it than I do when I'm not.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
You know,
So
because
okay,
you
sorry, God.
no, you're good. Go ahead.
Okay. When was the first time you started experimenting with fire stunts?
Fire stunts. Okay. So on a whim, I went through this little phase of like, let me buy different props and see what sticks and what doesn't. Um, and I was on Etsy and I saw these really cool like fire fans. They're like metal. They have almost kind of like a bat wing sort of shape to them, and very like on brand for like the weird kind of shit I like to do. And
Right.
I'm just gonna buy them, and maybe someday I'll learn how to use them, and maybe I won't, but I'll have them just in case. And they were like sitting in my house for a while. I never thought to play with them. I didn't know what type of fuel to use or anything like that. And my timeline is like not great. My concept of time is not fantastic. So I want to say it was maybe like a year and a half ago that my friend Sin and I had a show. Sin still has the show at La Boy. I perform in it. I am not a host of the show anymore. I don't think I could ever really call myself a host because I hate being on a microphone. And Sin is like fantastic on a microphone. But we were doing the show together, long story short. And Sin was like, why don't you use the fire props? I can teach you how to use them. And they were nice enough to come basically like give me like a intro lesson on like, okay, this is how you light them, don't be scared to touch them, this is what you can do, and whatever. And sort of got me started in using them. We used them in the show and I loved using them. It just felt really cool, and I'm like not scared of fire for some reason, so it's a bad trade because
Yeah.
like sometimes I get burnt. But you know, so I started using them more often, and I really kind of like grew to love the sort of contrast it can bring to a burlesque act, because it's
Yeah.
almost like an additional reveal, you know, because like when you're already basically naked, like where can you go from there? I'm not going to pull my skin off as much as I'd love to, but another like reveal is something people don't really see coming. And
Yeah.
you know, use it the same way you'd use a feather or a fan or something, you can run it across your body, you can like play with it in your mouth, you can do like little stunts with it, and I feel like it gives like a really interesting, unexpected element of danger and sensuality to a performance. So yeah, now I love it. I use
Yeah.
fire all the time.
Wow. That is, I would probably be like afraid of fire. Like, I could just imagine, like, I was thinking as you said that, like, back to Lady Gaga, who's like one of my musical inspirations, is she talked about how she used to like light cans of hairspray on fire when she would perform in clubs. I'm thinking that sounds awesome, but that also sounds fucking crazy. Like,
Yeah. I mean, I think there's things that you do when you're young and you don't realize like I could have blown my hand off with this can of hairspray.
yeah,
Trying to think like I wasn't even really like a pyro growing up. I mean, there I had this like little moment where I made myself like a little Lydia Dietz canopy over my bed when I was younger, and I used to sit there with my lighter and like burn little pieces into the canopy. But I was never one to like light shit on fire outside or anything. That was like never my thing. But I don't know. I guess I'm glad I started doing this now that I'm like of a certain age, because like I'm not scared, but I'm also
yeah,
not anything really dumb.
yeah. You're not gonna like try and do anything that's like truly stupid as you might have done when you were younger. It's like, let me find the craziest stunt I can find, and that's the one I want to try. Yeah,
Yeah. I'm very happy to just like do pretty little things with it and whatever. I'm not gonna try and like do anything where I could get like really, really, really hurt. Because a lot of the time it's not also when you're in public, it's not just about like me burning myself alive. It's about like accidentally burning down a place.
exactly.
So
So, what made you want to show yourself in a devil-like state in a lot of your performances?
so I absolutely loathe religion. Point blank period. Like I'm not even gonna lie about it.
Same.
And okay, work. So we're on the same page. Not here for it, but I'm very much here for. This is going to be a really dumb statement. Anti-religion. I'm like, I don't like this, but I kind of like the opposite of this. You know, very that. You know,
Yeah,
I like um, the aesthetic of anything dark. I've always loved since I was like little. So it's very much like kind of like always been part of like my creative expression to like draw or paint like demons and monsters and like that kind of thing, you know. And my love for that aesthetic mixed with my absolute disdain for religion kind of makes that sort of image like resonate with me, you know.
yeah,
And I feel like it also it's like a provocative thing that makes people think as well, you know. People see something that's sensual but at the same time like dark and maybe a little bit scary. It's thought provoking and memorable, and it's also kind of like helps me get into the character as well, you know,
right.
before I start rambling. But
Oh, you can start rambling a little bit. I will admit, like, I'm trying to pay attention to you, like, but at the same time, like, Cash keeps typing in stuff, and like, I just can't help but like stare at it.
hi, Cash. I have my glasses on and I still can't read the little words on the bottom, so I'm gonna have to read it afterwards. It's too far.
Yeah. So, when did you start learning how to pole dance?
At the strip club.
Yeah.
It was very just like, I'll figure it out, you know? And I mean, I am by no stretch of the imagination like an amazing pole dancer. I have a couple of tricks that I can do. And yeah, but I was like, when I first started, I'm sure it was rough. I'm sure it was rough. However, that being said, most of the dancers at the club I worked at for like the longest period of time were not doing anything up there. There was one guy who would like turn a show, but nobody was giving shows. And me being the fag that I am was like, well, I'm gonna turn shows if I'm here, you know, because it's more awkward for me to just stand there and like pop my dick and like make eye contact with people than it is to like get up there and do some kind of a show. So I was like, all right, well, there's the pole here. Let me try different things on the pole. They had like a ceiling rack. I could climb on the ceiling rack. You know, I could do like floor work. I could like lay down on the side of the stage. And it was like, okay, these are all ways to like keep me busy while I'm on stage. So I don't feel
Yeah.
people's like laser beams going through me. Cause the audience, the patrons at the strip club
Yeah.
are not always nice. And if you are clearly a gay person, regardless of the fact that it is a gay strip club, they will look at you like, what is this faggot doing on stage?
What?
We want the straight guys, bring on the straight guys. And though if you're too gay, they're gonna look at you in a weird way and shit like that, like really like not cute. So I was like, all right, well, if I'm up there like feeling like I'm turning it and like at least having a good time, I'm not going to be as conscious of like the weird looks I'm getting from people. And I will never be one at this point in my life to sit and pretend I'm a straight guy for it. It's just not going to happen. Not going to happen for me. So yeah. And the more I would do that, you know, I would like learn more tricks. Eventually I would come in a little bit early from work and like you could get up there and practice on the pole if you're there early because the side that had the pole on it would be closed because the front bar was open. There was like two sides.
Yeah.
So I would get up there, I would set my little camera, I would like try some new tricks, see how they looked, make some adjustments and whatever. And yeah, that's like how I learned what I know how to do. Um, I'm sure if I had stayed working there, I probably would have maybe eventually taken classes or learned different things. But
Yeah.
that said, like they are looking for very specific things, at least at the club that I worked at. And you know, you'd have your handful of people that would be very much there for the fact that you are obviously a gay man in a gay strip club. But so many of the patrons were coming in like looking for gay for pay dudes.
See, like you saying that, like to me, like that blows my mind. Like I wouldn't ever think like, oh, I'd rather just see the gay for pay guy up there dancing. I'm like, it's like, so let me get this straight. You're a gay person who wants to see somebody essentially pretend to be gay. That sounds fucking crazy.
But the gag is they're not even pretending to be gay. The gag is they are very much, hey, we are here, we are straight guys, but
Yeah.
come and touch us and put money in our jockstrap. And maybe we'll show you our dick if you're lucky. Very like internalized homophobia, very let's put the straight guy on the pedestal, very we're here looking for trade, like that type of thing. Which is like, hey, you know what, it's a job and I made good money and I had fun a lot of the time, but that's also kind of like not something I can get behind. And I'm still like, as much as like the dangling carrot is tempting of like going back there and like having a night where I make like a shit ton of money and like
Yeah.
whatever. It's thinking about like continuing to support the idea that so many gay people have, that we need to like idolize and worship straight men. It like just like doesn't sit right with me. Like somebody isn't hotter because they're straight. It's like,
No, like I go back like thinking of the time that like I went to like there was a night where a dancer was dancing at Parliament House back when I lived in Orlando, and that person was Bo Banks, who I consider like very someone who like rides the line and isn't necessarily like extremely masculine or extremely feminine. It's like I didn't give a shit what he did just as long as he like danced. But that's me. Like as you said, some people wouldn't feel like that. My thing is I don't give a fuck if a guy's hot and is doing stuff. I'm gonna pay attention.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I
same.
don't know. I'm more open. I'm more open minded than some people, apparently.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I could go on forever about, you know, that type of thing. But
So, do you travel a lot as a burlesque dancer and a male stripper? Or are you pretty much like just in one specific area?
so this is turning out to be the year of me like traveling places. Um, I have performed in Chicago. I've performed like in a lot of different places in Florida, but for right now, it's been like mostly here. Went to Chicago. I'm here. Um, but I have some things coming together this year where I'm going to be out of state and possibly out of the country. So it's exciting stuff, but it's like new stuff, you know.
That's
Um,
that's awesome.
yeah, I think it should be fun. I really think it should be fun.
Which
I
actually, okay, I actually did just think of something. I didn't write this down. So, would you ever consider auditioning for a show like Go Go for the Gold?
no,
No. Okay.
it's just it's a different thing. That specific show, I
Yeah.
have some really amazing go-go dancers on that show. That's not really like my thing so much. If they had like a made like a burlesque reality show,
Right.
I don't know. I don't know. I have this thing with like, do I would I ever want to put myself in a position where I could be edited and turned whatever a team of producers wants to turn me into, you know?
Exactly. That's kind of. I was just curious about that because I'm someone who like I say now I would never do reality TV. If someone like came to me and said like we want to do a docu series about you, I'm like I'm all for that. Like you could control how you're edited and like you see everything. You don't just like I'm just gonna leave it in the hands of producers. They're gonna edit me the way they want. I don't love that idea.
Yeah, I mean, there's one group of people that produce like queer reality TV. I think I would trust them if I were to ever do something like that.
Right.
I've just I've known people that have worked with them and it's been a good experience. But you know, when I watch things like competition shows and stuff like that, it just seems like it always gets really ugly. I've never seen Go for the Gold. I've seen clips for some of the dancers, and I mean, like they're
Yeah.
fantastic. And you know, you look at something like Drag Race, and it's made some people's careers, and it's ruined other people's careers. You know,
Exactly.
and it's just like, as much as I consider myself to be a very respectful person and like nice and whatever, I don't know what pressure they're going to have us under if you ever do something like that. You don't know if you're going to be sleep deprived because they're making you work a lot, or if you're going to be really like, I get super hangry if I'm not like eating every so often.
Yeah.
Um, and there's a lot of circumstances that are out of your control.
Yeah.
And there's also the stress. Then there's when you're on a gigantic public platform, no
Yeah.
matter what you do, there's always going to be people that like just hate you for existing. And I'm,
Exactly.
would I ever want to subject myself to that type of a thing, for someone to hate me because I didn't go home and someone else did in my place, like that kind of stuff. I'm just like,
Yeah.
and do I really want to be like super duper judged for my art?
Right.
Is going to like judge your art if you're doing something publicly and you're performing in front of people. There's always going to be people that are judging you. That's just like part of the game. But on like a national platform like that, I don't know, that just seems like a lot of pressure.
Well, I would say like I actually do know a little bit of what kind of went on with the first season of that show because I interviewed Rico, the winner from that show, and apparently I was thinking like it was like Drag Race where you spend hours doing stuff, and he said no, it was like literally they went in for like 20 minutes, like did every episode and then left. They weren't like put on ice or anything, and I'm like, well, that sounds kind of easy.
I mean, I did it. Did it get ugly? I didn't watch it. Did it get ugly? Were they fighting
There
and stuff?
was okay. So there was a fight between Rico and the person who ended up coming in second place, AJ, that went on throughout the show, but that was basically from what he told me, the producers, the second day of them recording, they were all like being too nice to each other, and basically the producers kind of were like, y'all need to start like getting into a little bit of a fight because y'all are being too nice.
Imagine that.
Which, I mean, that's what producers do.
People want to see drama. It's the human condition, you know.
Yeah.
Although Jet Adore was like the guest on one of, they had like a burlesque night on that show,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um,
They did have a burlesque episode. Yeah.
and when I tell you he's like one of my biggest inspirations in the world, and I think if I like met him in that setting, like if I had to like put together an act and like do it in front of him, I would just fucking drop dead right there. I don't think I could handle it, like when you like look up to somebody so much and then you're like, oh, well, I have to perform in front of this person. Like, I don't even know what I would do. I just
Yeah.
like,
I get that. Like, if you told me like to audition for a singing show and all of a sudden one of the judges was Lady Gaga, I'd be like, I'm like, so I got to sing in front of Gaga and she's going to judge me?
yeah,
That's like a lot.
yeah, that's wild. You gotta have nerve.
So, what made you want to start doing OnlyFans and what type of content do you post on there?
So I have a lot of friends who are like really, really, really successful with OnlyFans. And I mean, I knew that I wasn't going to be because I'm posting a different kind of content than they are. But, I do model on the side. And a lot of it is like art photography type modeling. So I wound up
Right.
with like really, 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 really well done nudes from fantastic photographers that I've worked with and stuff like that, and they'll, some of them would be like, yeah, if you have, do you have an OnlyFans? If you have an OnlyFans, you feel free to post this, whatever, whatever, whatever. And I had tried to make an OnlyFans during quarantine and I put like zero effort into it and I shut it down. But I stockpiled all of these photos that are really nice and I have nowhere to put them. you know, and I don't want to risk obviously like putting a little sticker and putting it on Instagram and get my account shut down again, you know, like after I put so much work into that. I'm like, you know what, like a passive income thing where every so often, you know, I'll post just a photo of myself that I've taken or these really nice professional photographs that I have. You know, they're sitting in a folder on my phone, not getting used. This is at least a place to put them. They're nice photos, and I can make a little bit of money off of things I have no place to put that I really love. So it just kind of seemed like, okay, well, I have something I can sell. I have a place I can sell it. Why not just do that? You know?
Right.
So I'm not ever posting anything like triple X or like actual sex or sex acts or anything like that. But, you know, it's like either like selfies of me in various states of undress or professional,
Yeah.
like pretty nudes and stuff like that that needed a nice home.
Which, I
So,
mean, well, first of all, you, the crazy thing you said, you can get thrown off of Twitter for doing stuff. I mean, granted, I know like every picture I post, no matter what, without a doubt, like Twitter just puts, no matter if it's like a picture of my ass or like it's literally just like me in drag, they put warnings on everything I post. Like,
yeah, I have not figured out Twitter yet. I don't know if I'm like too old and that's like for the kids now or whatever, but like I have kind of figured out how to use Instagram. I have not figured out how to use Twitter. So I do not even try. Every now and then I'll just like put something there if I feel like, okay, this is cute for Twitter, but not like I don't really care enough to put effort into it. So I don't even really like know how to work it so much, you know?
well,
So
yeah, and I get that, and also, fuck, um, just being on social media, as I've told people before, if I wasn't like doing drag and like entertaining and doing like this podcast and stuff, I would see no need to be on social media.
mhm.
Like if I didn't have shit to promote, I don't get like the whole purpose of people being on social media. Don't get me wrong, I'm grateful for everyone that is. Like it gives people viewers to my stuff, but it's like other than that, I just don't see the point.
Yeah. I mean, like people, I can't speak for other people, but like
Yeah,
where I'm from, like art doesn't exist unless there are people to view it, you know? Otherwise, it's just
exactly.
an object or a video or whatever. It's like it needs that, it needs viewers to exist, you know? So it's kind of
Yeah.
like, I don't love the, a lot of the catches that come with social media. You know, I mean, it breeds body dysmorphia and depression and a lot of other things that can be really, really unhealthy. But at the same time, it is like a free platform to share art with people.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I don't like that it's become so puritanical when it comes to like them shadow banning people, which very much seems to be pointed at certain people and not others, you know?
Right.
Um, but I mean, at the end of the day, there's going to be bullshit with everything, and it's like stuff that I can't change. So, and like you said, in an entertainment business, any kind of business where you're interacting with the public or whatever, it's like your social media is basically like your portfolio, you know.
Yeah.
Let's see,
And it's
like,
also like some people like if I were to tell anybody like advice about anything, you got to develop a thick skin because like I will say a lot of what I get is like nice comments and stuff. I'm grateful for it, but I've also gotten things where it's like younger me wouldn't have been able to handle what I can handle now. And it's like I look at some shit and I'm like, why did you have to like write that because you know I'm gonna like block you and delete whatever you're gonna say. So it's like you wasted your time like sitting there basically making fun of me, and you think this is gonna break my day. All it's gonna make me do is like just want to shut you out and like not ever hear from you again. Like I'll just block you.
Yeah, people are hateful. Some people, but a lot of the time, like if somebody's like really coming at you with some stuff like that, it's more about them than it is about you. It's some kind of, I don't know, people who really come for other people see characteristics they don't like in themselves reflected back at them off of someone else. That's a lot of the time where that's coming from. So it's really like if somebody's getting really nasty or saying nasty things or whatever and taking time out of their day, because once we spend time, it's done. That's like another 10 minutes like towards the day we die. So if they want to take that 10 minutes and spend it on talking shit about somebody they've never met on the internet, it's not about you.
Yeah.
It's about them and whatever bullshit they're going through, honestly. And you can't even let it bother you because it's just inconsequential. And it's almost like I'm sorry for that person, you know, like
Yeah.
hope you figure out what you need to figure out type stuff.
And it's like, especially like when people go for like my body, it's like, especially it's like I'm a drag queen, so sometimes I get stuff from women, and it's like, first of all, I don't want to fuck you anyway. So it's like, why are you coming at me? Like, yeah. Anyway. So, do you consider yourself an extremely sexual person, or are you more of just like a free spirit nudist? If you get what I'm saying with that.
So like honestly, the more I have worked in stripping and burlesque and performance and everything like that, the less of a sexual person I have become. And I don't know if that's also because I'm like getting older, you know, your sex drive kind of decreases as you get older. But yeah, I'm definitely not like a super sexual person. And I don't know, it's like even when I'm like towards the end of an act and I'm wearing like a like a merkin and pasties or like a G-string or something like that, it still to me doesn't feel like nudity or exhibitionism. It feels more like I don't know. Like my focus is never on like, okay, I'm naked now, you know? It's more on like, okay, how do I make a pretty shape with my body while I'm wearing this, you know, that kind of thing. Sexuality doesn't ever really come into it for me. Sensuality does, but
Yeah.
sex doesn't. And I think that's another reason why I make a better burlesque performer than I do a stripper. Because for me, it was never about sex, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So it's more like, in a way, you're saying like burlesque is a little bit more like art, whereas like stripping is a little bit more like sex.
No, stripping is definitely an art as well. But I feel like you need to be a really good stripper, you need to infuse more of a sexuality into it. Whereas I feel like in burlesque, you can get away with more of it being a playful tease or like a mood or a something more along the lines of sensual as opposed to sexual, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah. So I think before you said you were dating somebody, so I'm gonna try and like rephrase this question. Do you think it would be hard to date people or be in a relationship because you're a dancer?
I mean, I've been in a relationship since I've been doing, like, before I was doing this.
Right.
So I kind of like it doesn't make it hard on the relationship, on my relationship at least, from the direction of like jealousy or tea with like that type of stuff. Because it
Yeah.
just like we're our relationship isn't really like that. We aren't like jealous, controlling people or whatever. But it does get difficult to balance time, you know, because it's
Right.
like as much as you're on stage for like 7 minutes tops per act, the amount of prep work, the amount of footwork,
Exactly.
and everything like that, it eats up a lot of your time. Rehearsal eats up a lot of your time. Traveling eats up a lot of your time. So it's like what does get difficult is not letting your career eat up your entire life and still making sure to make time for your partner, which I
Right.
sometimes have trouble balancing because I mean I live in Boca, I work in Miami or Fort Lauderdale for the most part. I'm on the road a lot. I am rehearsing a lot. I do definitely make a filthy mess out of the house when I'm like working on costumes and stuff, and that can make a relationship a little bit more complicated sometimes. Um, but yeah, for me, those are like the challenging parts more so than like my partner getting jealous or me getting jealous or whatever. It's more like a time thing.
Yeah. And I mean, like, and it's like such a good point that you're like bringing that up because if you had just like stopped at your first statement and people had just said, like, you're doing stuff for like 5, 7 minutes, how could it be like difficult? But as anyone who's an entertainer, performer, musician, you know that like yes, there's a like physical event that you have to do, but if you don't practice, like one wrong thing and you could like fuck shit up.
Yeah, definitely, 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 definitely.
As in like and there are some times where like even if you practice a lot, you could still fuck up. Like
Things are always gonna fuck up.
yeah.
Things are always gonna fuck up. Nothing ever goes completely 100% as planned. Um, and you never walk on stage thinking, today I think I'm going to fuck my zipper up while I'm trying to take my pants off. Like, but these things happen. It's live theater. You're working with live crowds of people, which are unpredictable. Um, and sometimes props just don't always work the way you want them to. Sometimes the stage is slippery. Sometimes you have to walk in blind to a place, not knowing what the area you're going to be working looks like, how much space you're going to have, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's so nothing is ever perfect, and
Yeah.
that's interesting and exciting.
Yeah, I'm thinking about like just from a vocal perspective, like the competition I was telling you about, I think I might have told you this off camera. The like it's like my track was already going and I was looking for somebody. I'm like, I need a microphone. Like and
Yeah,
then like once they handed me, it's like, okay, so I have to remember where I am in terms of like the intro and like where I'm gonna come in and like so you try and be in the moment, but a lot of times you have to think about like what's gonna go what could go wrong and like sometimes it takes you out of the moment a little bit, but you want to think about what's coming next.
Yeah.
Totally.
Balance.
So what is the biggest misconception about you?
About me?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I've had a lot of people tell me before they met me that, like, before I met you, I thought you were going to be really mean. And I'm not. I'm, and otherwise, I'm like pretty much an open book with everything. Like, I can't keep a secret to save my life, and I don't even try to. So, I don't know. I think people kind of like sometimes will correlate a dark aesthetic with someone being an asshole, and usually it's the opposite. So
Right.
I think that would probably be the only exception I could think of, or maybe that I'm a slut because I'm not. Not that there's anything wrong with being a slut, but I just don't like sex.
No.
So
No, of course not. Like,
I'm
it's
definitely
like I can't judge people for being sluts because I've had my time where I am. Now I'm more like I have a friend with friends with benefits, so it's like I get to be with just like one person, and that for me is like great.
yeah.
Not having to be with like random people. And I can see why you would like hesitate thinking that question because like if I had somebody ask me that same thing, it'd be like a lot of times people can't see my emotions because of the fact that I wear sunglasses. Reason for that is because like one, I get nervous performing, so it's like it's nice to like not be able to see the audience sometimes. And two, I know that Cash is watching, and this is gonna be like a shock to her being a drag queen. I don't know how to do eyes. Like I've never like tried to teach myself or anything like that because my thought was, well, sunglasses are kind of my thing. There's no point in me like trying to learn how to do eyes when I'm just gonna cover them up.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That
And it's
definitely
also I know that like one wrong mistake with your eyes and you end up looking fucking crazy.
I mean, from a distance, you can get away with a lot,
Yeah.
but because like people sitting 10 feet away aren't gonna be like clocking how well you blended your makeup out and everything. Well, actually, yeah, they will, but it's a little bit more forgiving when you're farther away, you know.
Yeah.
But eyes are fun. That's my favorite part. I like eyes, and it's like if you set the light up the right way, you can kind of like see the shapes of where it should go. I don't know. Like I don't know how to explain it. Like I'm sounding really stupid right now, but yeah. Eyes are
No, no,
fun.
no. I'm reading what Cash said. Like, she literally says that I'm the girl 10 feet away clocking. Like, and it's also like that's another thing. It's like you can't see my eyes if you're doing something like this is definitely probably in my open mic days. I heard people like who were singing and they were not the greatest. And it's like you don't want to see somebody like you don't want to be that person that like lets the people see you eye rolling when they're trying to hit a note and be like, "Mama, what the fuck was that?" Like just no. I mean, I shouldn't say that. That makes me seem like a bitch. But
It's really funny that we're having this particular conversation because I was just talking to somebody about this same thing. I think it was yesterday. about how a lot of musicians wear sunglasses because it's a barrier between them and the audience. And I was thinking about like, oh, you know what? The times that I've worn masks, I definitely like I get it. Like I felt
Yeah.
a lot more protected. And I guess it's like a subconscious thing or whatever. If your eyes are covered, you subconsciously in our like animal brain or whatever, we feel more safe or something like that. But I totally get that.
And it's also, it allows at least what I would say, like, one of the things that I'm glad that it makes me do is, especially like when I'm performing something super like emotional, it allows my voice to kind of tell the story and not my face.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense too. Yeah, because a lot of the expression is in the eyes.
Sorry, as I said, like I've been trying to like focus on you, and like sometimes like Cash is being like so funny, and it's like
I miss the good stuff.
yeah, she's like literally saying my brain is that of a mole rat. Like just
Word. Okay. Cash turned the party today.
yeah, and I will say like you'll get to see it, and like unfortunately like she was probably like one of the only people viewing the whole time, but it's like that's why I also post this on YouTube, because you probably have people in like other parts of the country who see you who are not going to be up like early in the morning viewing stuff.
Yeah. Nobody's up right now. Nobody's up right now.
No, and that's why like honestly with people like outside of the like Eastern time zone, I try and like reserve interviews on Tuesday, which is like another time that I have for them, because it's like I don't want to be the asshole who's telling somebody in LA, okay, I need you to be up at 6:30 your time to like be here, and like expect you to be like peppy and like energetic.
I'll be honest with you. Like I, in real life, would be waking up in 20 minutes from now.
But that's like that's nightlife. I mean, on the weekends, I try and like sleep in a little bit, but like during the week, I'm very much the person who like gets up at 4 in the morning and like goes out exercising, and like
Yeah.
gets. That's why I know like early hours are not conducive to nightlife. Like
I also love my like 12:30 gym time because like no one's there. It's nice. It's like
oh yeah, I'm thinking like definitely during the week, like 12:30, like most people are at work.
empty, fully empty. There's maybe 5 people there, and it's very nice. Whereas like going yesterday in the morning on a Saturday at like, oh, it wasn't even the morning. When did we go? Like 1 o'clock or something like that. It was like packed, absolutely packed full of people, and it's like I hate that. I hate a crowded gym. I hate it. But
No, I hate crowded anywhere. Like literally, I had to go to like Walmart to get my like get a valve replaced in my tire. I got there at um like 9:30. I didn't end up leaving till like 2 o'clock. Like
what? Wait, what?
yeah, seriously. Like
What the hell? That's crazy.
and you got to think like, as I told you, the area that I'm in compared to like a city is not that bad, and it's like I was literally like one of the last people to leave, and it's like for something that honestly could have probably taken like 20 minutes, I had to wait hours.
Oh my
But
god.
there was a time that I got there like as soon as they opened, and I left at like 1:30. Like I got there at 7 and left there at 1:30.
Yeah,
And
it's a whole day. It's a whole day.
yeah, it's like that's my whole day. It's like luckily I didn't have anything else planned. But it now sucks that with my work schedule currently, I can only do stuff on the weekends because I'm like the person who in an ideal schedule, I'd love like having one weekend day off and like one day during the week,
Hmm.
so I could like actually do shit during the week and not just have to be like at work Monday through Friday.
Yeah, yeah. I do sometimes miss having like a day off on the weekend. Honestly, it's very rare now, but you get a
but
little
but as
FOMO.
some people probably say, like you're having fun though. It's like no, it's fucking work. Like it may be fun for the audience, but it ain't fun for you.
I mean, like it's fun. It's fun. But it's also like it's a different kind of fun when you can just go out and not have to be like on, you know.
Yeah,
So not because, and I'm not complaining. Trust me, I'm not complaining. And a lot of
yeah.
this me just mismanaging my own schedule. But
So I would just like assume this. You probably never go out when you're not performing, right?
I do sometimes. It's not often, but I do. I do sometimes. Occasionally. I don't love it, but then when I don't do it for a really long time, I'm like, oh, I kind of want to go out, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of get that. I kind of get that too. Like, I'm someone who, like, if I'm not performing, I don't go out because it's like the idea of just like being in a bar, like having to get in drag. Because, like, the amount of times I've been at a place not in drag, probably in total, I would say 3.
Oh, well.
Yeah. So it's like I want to like go out, like do the zhuzh, and that like all takes time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. For sure.
Like I was thinking about like you spoke before about Palm Beach Pride. Like I saw like the event Friday, and I'm like, so do I really want to like get home after working 8 hours and then like have to spend an hour getting ready? Well, like half an hour, 45 minutes getting ready, and then like drive an hour to go do this. And I'm like, do I really want to? And I'm like, it's like maybe I'll feel like more energized to do it once it gets closer, but it's like now I'm just like, God, I just want to be at home.
I feel that. It's going to be a fun event, though. It's going to be fun. Palm Beach Pride is fun.
Well, I think it was the after party I was looking at, the thing that runs from like 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. Like,
Where is it?
uh, House Lounge, I think.
Oh, work. Okay.
Yeah, like it's like I know. Speaking of Cash is going to be there the second day, which is Saturday, I think. Yeah.
Absolutely. 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 Well, hopefully I will be. I'll be there on Saturday, so hopefully our thing we're doing wraps up, so I can come watch. Oh, yeah, I think it will because it's a nighttime thing, right? It's like after the parade and the whole little thing they do.
What you saying? Wait. I'm sorry, I'm reading Cash. Like, Cash is saying it's Saturday and Sunday. There's no way. The thing I read was like, I'm gonna let her respond. But it's like the thing that I read was definitely Friday and Saturday because I'm. Okay, I will. I will, girl. I see you. Like, I was thinking, I don't know. I may stay down there and do like Friday and Saturday night. It all depends on if I can get somebody. Because right now, the weekend of Palm Beach Pride, I don't have a guest yet.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, that's when I tell people, like, if anyone ever wants to do a podcast like doing this, you're going to have to get used to the fact that, like, you're going to send a lot of messages out. You're going to have not a lot of people respond. Because, like, someone you worked with, like Sin Silva, send them a message, still haven't heard back. Like,
they're super busy.
Yeah, I know. I know that. Like, I know people get super busy, and like, I'm not like angry because of that. There's some people who would get that. And it's like you got to realize people get super busy. There's sometimes they don't see stuff.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And
or you'll be busy and you open something and you look at it, you're like, I don't have time to like put an appropriate response right now. Mental note, I'm going to respond to this later, like after the gig, and then you forget, and then 3 days later you're scrolling through your messages and it's like, oh shit, I forgot to write back. And that like happens a lot, you know. I feel like because it's, especially if you're like traveling around to a bunch of different places to work and stuff like that, which I know Sin definitely does. It'll like, you'll make a note to like respond to something when you have the time to actually like engage and respond, rather than give like a word whatever, you know. And I think people just forget because there's so much to think about.
And like you saying that, like, honestly, I would like the idea of like somebody giving me more than one word response because it kind of like gives me a gauge of how they're going to be in the interview.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you respond like, yes, sure, like, so, okay, what kind of mood are you going to be when I finally get you? And like, am I going to have to like drag stuff out of you?
Yeah. I don't know, it's like a tricky call to make. Like, is it better to just acknowledge, I guess, like the I know I need to get better at this, to be like, hey, I can't really talk in depth right now, but I'll talk later, and then remember to do it. You know, that's like ideally what to do. That's not what I do.
Yeah, and it's like, even now, like, in terms of like getting back to people during the week for me, it's like a little bit challenging between 9 to 5 to like get back, which is why I'll either send messages like super early in the morning or like a little bit later at night because I'm working a job where I'm not allowed to have my phone.
Oh, okay.
So I'm like, every time I get a break, I'm like running out to my car, like just responding back to people, seeing what people are saying.
Yeah.
Because
you have time.
Yeah, it's like, and when I first like signed up for this job, I'm thinking like that's gonna be nothing, and then I realized I'm like, it's like until you can't be on your phone, you don't realize how much you're on your phone, like checking stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like email, news, Instagram, email, Facebook messages, and then, like a cycle, like a little, like a rat on a wheel, like back and forth, checking all the different stuff, whatever.
But as you said, you have to respond to stuff as soon as you can because otherwise you're going to forget to respond. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Not only like come off like a jerk, which like it's not being a jerk. It's just like forgetting.
you're
Like
busy. Like,
it's not even that I'm. I mean, that's definitely part of it, but it's like I'm just dumb. You know, like I forget shit all the time, and it's like so I'm not trying to be a jerk. It's just like I forget stuff, and then I'll remember and I'll feel like so bad. So it's like usually I'll respond with some kind of like opening with like a profuse apology of like I'm so sorry it took me 3 days to get back to you. That's not okay.
yeah,
But I you know like I need to do better.
you weren't that bad. Like, at least when dealing with me, you weren't that bad. Like, maybe you are with other people, but like, as I say, my judgments of people are honestly based on just how they deal with me. Like,
Okay.
it's like somebody said, like, they never got back to me. I'm like, well, they were super chill with me, and it's like maybe they could just sense that like you're an evil person, and like that's why they didn't get back to you immediately.
That always that. There's
I mean, that's super shady to say to somebody, but it's like, well, it's like at some point you want to be like, well, yes, I'm your friend, but it's like maybe I'm just like tolerating you.
the way I'm going to be going through all of my messages and responding to all of them. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh no. No, but
No, that wasn't my point. I'm not trying to like guilt trip you into like
no.
answering people back. Like,
I'm really good at guilt tripping myself. So even if you weren't, I can manage guilt trip myself with like that. Oh God. But you know, it's wild to think that like there was a point in a life and most people's lives now. I mean, like there's some people that were too young for this, but like we didn't even have any platforms like this at all. I mean, I remember first getting a computer and having like AOL and having like dial-up internet and everything took like it would take you like a half an hour to like get onto the internet. And then
yeah.
that would just be too busy. It was just too busy. It didn't work, you know, like and like
See,
something like video chat.
yeah.
I didn't think this would ever happen.
See, I didn't know that. Like, I will admit, I am someone who's like kind of like I'm in my 20s, but I'm like in my late 20s. So like I did know there was a time when we didn't have internet in the house, but it wasn't because like it wasn't available. My mom was just like someone who didn't have internet in the house till like the 2000s. So like,
Mm.
and it was just like dealing with the internet, and even sometimes now you think of like all this like shit of people like doing stuff on the internet, and it's like you want to be like back in my day there was no TikTok, and like you just feel like super old.
Well, how long has TikTok been around for now? Like a year, 2 years, maybe.
I think it's been around longer than that. I think it might be like 3 or 4 years. I don't know. I'm very new to it, and like I don't use TikTok the way that people like conventionally use it. I'm more like put up performances of me singing live and like clipping interviews because I don't do like TikTok trends.
I don't even know how to use TikTok. I'm fully like dating myself right now. Figure out TikTok. I can't figure out Twitter. I remember not having the internet or a computer in my house. Was he a pilgrim? Like, was he there? You know, like, not quite that old, but definitely old enough to remember not having a computer in my house.
And it's like we're talking like we're super old. There are gays that are older than us that still like go out partying every night. Like,
Oh yeah.
and it's like you're like 50, 60 years old. It's like, how the fuck do you have the energy to go out every night? Like, even if I was like in a big city, I feel like at some point I just want to be like, when do I get to the point where I don't want to go out anymore and like I just stay at home all the time and like that's my life being a hermit. Like,
it's a nice life. Nice hermit. Very nice.
Cash just said they have energy from drugs. I wasn't gonna point that out, but like they probably do.
I'm sure that definitely helps in some cases, in a lot of cases. But
so like obviously, well, going back to like, so when you became sober, you obviously became sober from like drugs and alcohol, right? Like you didn't.
yes.
You weren't like one of those people who's like, I'm gonna stop drinking, but I can smoke like 18 joints a day, and like that's.
I mean, I'm like a very firm believer in everybody's journey is their journey. So for me, I know from experience that I can't do anything.
Right.
Because it take me right back to the worst parts. And some people can, put down a more serious drug and smoke, and that's it. Or some people can quit drugs and have cocktails here and there, and that's it. And it's different for everybody, and like whatever works to make your life more manageable, fierce. But for me, I know that I absolutely just cannot with anything, any kind of mood or mind altering substance, obviously, except for coffee.
Yeah.
But, I can't smoke. I can't do like, people will be like, oh, what about mushrooms? They're from the earth. I can't do that. Like I would never do, like, go do ayahuasca for spiritual reasons. I wouldn't take that risk. Because it's like at this point I'm not willing to gamble on like experimenting with things that could just like bring me back to being an absolute and total fuck up, because sometimes it's like a shark tasting blood and then all of a sudden wants more. It's very that. So, and I've seen it and I've done it and I've been the person to be like, okay, I can smoke a joint, and no, I can't. Okay, then I can have a beer, or maybe I'll set a 2 cocktail limit. Like I've literally tried everything except for get completely clean.
And then getting completely clean was the only thing that worked.
And then I've tried getting completely clean and not participating in my recovery, and that didn't work either. So it's like, okay, I know that for me, I have to have a sponsor. I have to go to meetings. I don't go to meetings as often as I should, but I have to go to meetings from time to time. I have to communicate with other people in recovery, and I need to make it a priority to like treat myself well enough that I'm not going to like become resentful of myself and fuck everything up on purpose accidentally, like self-sabotage type bullshit.
Yeah.
So I have to like follow the right direction, and as long, literally as long as I am following that right direction, everything goes right. Always. Everything goes completely right.
Yeah.
And
But it's
like,
also,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, like, what I've heard people who are like ex-addicts tell themselves, it's not like you're trying to look for the rest of your life. You honestly just take it one day at a time, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so today I'm not going to get fucked up.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when people like first start going to the gym. It's like thinking about, oh, I have to go to the gym every day. That's so daunting. There's like so much to think about. Reframe it. It's just about reframing things as like, I'm gonna do this today for me,
Yeah.
and then I'll worry about tomorrow. You know,
Exactly.
It makes things a lot less daunting. It makes things a lot less like heavy. Like, oh shit, I'm tied to this pillar for the rest of my life, and I am, but
Right.
I don't have to think about it like that.
See, I'm someone who like tries to stick to a schedule because literally, as I said before, with like having to quit my job that I did, the reason that I like ended up quitting was because like I could barely walk. So like doing that and like in that way I like somehow was like from working and like icing my feet every day, I dropped 40 pounds. And it's like after I left that job, I had to realize like I need to start exercising and like there was like one day where I decided like, oh yeah, I can skip it. No, you can't, because then like all of a sudden it's like I put on 10 pounds on my face, and I'm like, it's like you don't want to, but like you realize that you kind of have to in order to like make it and like be healthy.
Yeah, it's tricky.
And I'm trying to do it definitely with like having a desk job now. Like the idea of me like going out every morning is like something that I like, or like 5 days a week going out in the morning is like something that I have to tell myself. It's like you have to do this, otherwise if you stop you're going to eventually like mold into your desk chair, and you don't want that.
Yeah, I mean, like especially if you have a job where you're like you have to remain seated for like really, really, really long periods of time. It's hard on your body, you know.
Right.
It's because like we're not meant to be sitting at desks. It's like
Exactly.
a popular opinion type of thing of me trying to be like, oh, we're just animals and we have to go run in the wild and whatever. Like, no, we're literally like not shaped for that. And I mean, like, even me, like, sitting in my car in fucking traffic for like 2 hours a day, like, my back is fucked by the end of the day. I had a job at one point. I worked security when I was like young, and I would sit in a lobby for like 8 hours. And by the end of the day, I was just like young, but like my fucking back hurt, my ass cheek was falling asleep. I still get some
Yeah.
like sciatic issues from like just like sitting on that chair all the time and whatever. And it's like we're not meant to do that. And it's kind of like we have to balance it out with like, okay, if we're forced to be immobile for such and such amount of time, like we have to balance it with
Some form of exercise.
yeah, just for our own sake, just for the sake of our health.
Right. Totally. Okay. Well, with that being said, I got through everything. It was so great having you on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. And with that being said, this is Gay Out the City. I'm your host, Prince Electro Diamond, and I hope you've enjoyed. Stream.